All right, so we have to eliminate. We have to give eliminative materialism credit for being utterly logical. There we
Yeah,
go.
I mean, clearly, if those things don't exist, then you have to say they don't exist, right?
right.
So that's the logical conclusion, and so they say, "Yep, they don't exist."
Right, it's all illusion.
Yeah.
Sorry, that's just helps you with continuing on this existence,
Right.
Which you don't really have a choice in anyway. So I don't know what that means. Having made an idol of matter, it rejects anything beyond the material realm. Yet not all materialists are happy with this outcome. Gee, I wonder why.
Yeah.
They point to the obvious fact that we are conscious beings. Somehow, they say, consciousness must emerge from matter. This view is called emergentism. So if you have something like water, you have wetness. Water is wet. It can be cold. It can be warm. It freezes at 100 or at 0. It boils at 100.
Yeah, Celsius.
It has all these properties, and so there's nothing in it that kind of tells water must be wet. It's just a byproduct of being water.
So it's the arrangement of two gases, right? Hydrogen and oxygen in a particular way, and wetness kind of emerges out of that arrangement, right? Yeah.
So the property of something can affect the thing it is a part of, right? After all, mental states are not at all like physical states. A physical object like a rose may be red, may be prickly, but your thought about the rose is neither red nor prickly.
Right.
Physical objects.
So here she's given us some counter examples to show that this idea of emergentism doesn't really work, right? Yeah.
Physical objects are public. They can be observed by other people, but mental states, such as the feelings of pain or joy, are private. They cannot be directly observed by anyone. And so this was who was the atheist? He's the one that tried to say well-being was the was the explanation.
Harris?
Sam Harris. Sam Harris would say, well, you just measure, if you're feeling pain in this mental state and then you weren't feeling it in this mental state, then that's an objective standard. So that would be an attempt to kind of get away around it. We explain physical states by invoking a general causal law, as in science, but we explain mental states by invoking personal intentions, desires, choices.
Right. So notice the explanation of these two different things, right, are different. Right. Yeah. Right. So she's making the case here that we really have two different things, not just one thing.
Right. And the second one isn't just this illusion.
Right.
A good idea of that being we all experience it, and an attempt to be Mr. Spock from Star Trek doesn't really work, and it didn't even work for Vulcans either. So mental states are always about something. So it's directed towards an object. You think about a person, you worry about a problem, but physical objects are not about anything. They just are. Yeah. I worry about my wife getting my favorite candy at the store. Right. But then there's also my wife. Those are two different things.
So mental states has this aboutness property. So the fancy name for that is intentionality. That's the fancy name for that.
And the key word at the bottom of the screen right now. Right. I'll define it later, don't worry.
And that's the idea that mental states are about something, the aboutness of mental states.
The aboutness of something.
And obviously physical objects aren't about anything.
Right.
They just
kind of a brute fact. It appears that consciousness and matter differ in kind, qualitatively, not merely in degree. Qualitatively, not merely in degree, quantitatively. Darwinian evolution implies that humans emerged through the blind operation of natural forces. It is mysterious how such forces could generate something non-physical. Right, and that was Evan Fales, a philosopher. Philosopher Colin McGinn treats it akin to a miracle. We do not know how consciousness might have arisen by natural processes from antecedently existing material things. One is tempted, however, reluctantly to turn to divine assistance. It would take a supernatural magician to extract consciousness from matter. But we can't have that, so never mind, and we just don't know how it is. It's a mystery. We'll explain it somewhere down the line, which I believe is philosophy of the gaps. That's philosophy of the gaps.
That's right.
There.
That's right.
Boo. We can't have that explanation. Philosopher Marc Baudot says that the idea of emergence is uncomfortably like magic.
Poof! There it is. Yeah. Right there's the consciousness. Right. Just and it exists. And it came into existence.
It's not something that you get at age 3. That's kind of bestowed on you. It's not like going through puberty. You have it. Every child has a personality. It has desires, wants. It's ingrained in you.
It's conscious.
Yeah. I mean, all that. And so, trying to cut that off devalues the person, and so that's what she's trying to point out here.
Yeah.
In the words of philosopher Galen Strawson, the denial of consciousness is surely the strangest thing that has ever happened in the history of the whole. In the whole history of human thought. It shows that the power of human credulity is unlimited. The capacity of human minds to be gripped by theory, by faith, is truly unbounded. It reveals the deepest irrationality of the human mind. So the very fact that it's denied shows the truth of it. So.
Yeah, wow.
And so, you have this kind of faith that a limited material is a faith, one that is deeply irrational.
Yeah.
After the goal of philosophy is to explain the facts of experience, not to deny them, and that's what we see happening here. Right. Anything less is ducking the issue. Right. The problem with the reductionism is that instead of explaining things, it tries to explain them away. And so, at least certain elements of materialism attempt to do that, and so you can answer those as well. But here, the reductionist, the eliminative materialism tends to do the opposite of what good science claims to be doing. It's a logically coherent system, but it contradicts human experience. Most of what makes life worth living, though, consists of experiences: love, happiness, fulfillment, moral ideas, a sense of purpose, and so on. These are the things that we see. These are the things that drive humanity, and musicians write about, and poets and artists, and people that want to pass on more than just their genes to children, the ideals, and things like democracy and writing books. All those things have a basis in this non-material thing of wanting to kind of improve or inspire or do something, whatever that person is holding. They're not just thinking of must continue the species, must procreate, they're done, now I can die, whatever that means, or get the most amount of stuff, because in the end, whoever has the most amount wins.
That's right.
That's what Mario told me. What we see when people actually hold these views is a reduction of the human person and not just harmless speculation, idle amusements for philosophers. Right. What the dominant classes hold as true tends to shape social and political practice.
Right.
If the elite holds a materialism that reduces humans to computers, they will treat people like computers. 1984 is a perfect example of this. You have the proles. They're there to prop up the upper class and the party, because I don't want to get into a full range of 1984, but it's such a good book that it seems to try and computerize people so much so that they view 2 + 2 = 5 as a possible truth claim, and you thinking that it's not is you being hateful towards the collective as a whole, stuff like that. So you want to treat computers where you can program them. You want to treat people like you can program them and make them think irrational thoughts if that's so your goal. And so people will be judged solely on how well they perform their assigned function, and when they stop functioning, they will be tossed in the garbage heap with the other electronic trash, a bag of meat in the ground, feeding the worms because the worms are helpful because they're alive.
Yeah.
Who they're helpful to, or what's the purpose of all, there is none. Stop asking those questions, unless if it leads to survivability, but then you have to cut off all your desires to want to understand that.
So that's kind of the critique here, what reductionism does in a materialistic worldview, right? That's so she's kind of looked at this, and it cuts out all our consciousness, all of our free will, right? Yeah. All of the
really
things
simplifies things. All we're talking about is just the stuff. I mean, that's 5 senses I only have to worry about.
Right.